Ask colleagues from Euromed Rights and Sindicat National Autonom do Personnel, the administration, take 10 minutes presentation and to give us information which they assess as relevant for our work. Welcome to colleagues, and floor is yours.
Euromed Rights and the Syndicat National Autonome du Personnel de l'Administration Publique. Please, you have the floor. Okay.
Microphone, please. Microphone for the speaker. The speaker does not have a microphone yet.
C'est bon? Chers membres du comité.
Distinguished members of the committee, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First of all, could I add a short paragraph which was not present in my presentation because tomorrow Algeria appears before you. We were informed just today, though, that a collective expulsion program was triggered for migrants in the second largest town of Algeria, Oran. They're being rounded up, and in all likelihood they'll be expelled as Algeria appears before you. So I think this is something that you should really be concerned about. So, Kaddour CHOUICHA is my name. I'm a university professor. I'm a trade union and a human rights militant in Algeria. The report before you today rests to a great extent on the report already presented to you last year, because so little has really changed over the period of time, because we have to conclude that the situation undergone by the migrant workers and their family members, in particular those who are considered to be illegal, unlawful, is the same. In other words, they are invisible, as a result of which they are victims of abuses. That is at the hands of the authorities and at the hands of criminal gangs. The report rests on 4 pillars. Number 1, non-respect of the International Convention on the Rights of Migrant Workers and their family members. Why? Because several of the points embodied in this convention are not covered by the law 0811 of the 25th of June 28, pertaining on the entry and stay conditions of the circulation, the movement of aliens in Algeria, foreigners in Algeria. To give you some, I can't give you examples, too many examples, because it'll be too long, but if you want to have a look at that, you can look at. Here are some examples. Article 10 of the Convention, the UN Convention on the protection that the state must give all migrants, regardless of their status. That's one example. The Algerian Constitution says in its Article 26, and I quote, that the state is responsible for the security of the persons and of their property, end of quote. Whereas Article 150 of the Constitution says, and I quote, the treaty is ratified by the President of the Republic in the conditions enforced by the Constitution prevail over domestic law. End of quote. We must conclude that this is not respected because ratification is only formal in nature, because a significant number of articles is neither respected nor taken into account. Second example, Article 12 is contradicted by Algerian regulations, which calls for practices of another religion other than Islam, not only to have an agreement as an association, but also have an authorization issued by the Council of Faiths other than the Muslim faith to be able to practice their profession. Third example, Article 14, most migrant workers have to submit to rent rooms in flats on an hourly basis. And that is because migrant workers cannot obtain a residence permit and cannot be regularized. Their administrative status is very precarious, as a result of which they have to move into informality to receive services, and yet this is fundamental, and that includes housing. Article 16, next example. Migrant workers do not enjoy the security that the state should provide. They are constantly under the threat of criminal gangs who have understood that migrant workers are easy prey. Let us not forget that the political leaders, including the Prime Minister when he was Chief of Staff of the President of the Republic, these political leaders lead or in fact exacerbate hatred towards migrant workers. And there's also a lack of translators and defenders when migrant workers appear before courts. Article 22 is the next example. The Algerian authorities continue to practice collective expulsions or deportations, which added to the impossibility for migrant workers to recover what is owed to them. All the most often, this is the employer keeps what is owed to the migrant workers. And very often migrant workers cannot open a bank account. Article 23, migrant workers cannot contact their consular authorities of their countries of origin. Even worse, the Algerian authorities do not allow the consular authorities to contact the migrant workers, even when they have been gathered and held in retention centres before a collective expulsion. This information has been conveyed to us by the victims of these unlawful collective expulsions and conveyed to us by the Malian Nigerian diaspora associations. Article 26, migrant workers cannot contact their trade unions or affiliate to their trade unions to defend their rights. Article 30, also, children of migrant workers who are in age to go to school do not go to school in public schools because of language issues, but also because the authorities refuse to enroll them unless the associations get involved, and that is in a very few cases. Article 40, migrant workers cannot create associations to defend their interests. Even international NGOs find it very difficult to create associations that are registered under Algerian law. Article 45, the family code in Algeria is based on a definition of marriage which is very restrictive, and the issue of the religion of the spouses is an ongoing problem. Article 45, migrant workers in a regular situation are not entitled to any rights, and that is following a number of Algerian NGOs' warnings, and including our trade union. Access to health care is difficult. The health bill before the National Assembly acted in such a way that the Health Commission proposed an amendment making it impossible for migrants to receive health care. Article 49, the Algerian law limits the time for migrants irregular migrants to stay in the country. The second key point is the non-respect and refusal to implement Law 811 dated 25th of June 2008 on the entry and stay conditions and the movement of aliens or foreigners in Algeria. Whilst this law does not meet the standards of the UN standards, even the articles therein are not respected, including with regards to the absence of formal notification of the expulsion and the lack of remedy, the brutal behaviour of the security forces when the migrant workers are detained, when the police forces intervene in the housing, the lodging of the migrant workers. The doors are broken down early in the morning. Very often, migrant workers come back home late at night and find that their houses have been ransacked. As I was saying, in Oran, the police force have behaved less violently, but still violently. As I was saying before, the consular workers have not been able to get involved. A number of people who were lawfully residing in Algeria, who had a visa and had were registered as refugees, have also been rounded up and expelled. Migrant workers have been taken back to the borders of countries of which they are not nationals, as a result of which Nigerian authorities have expressed their disapproval. Lack of information as to the places called waiting centres, which are just retention centres. Number 3, the issue of the protection of Algerian militants who are being oppressed. Mr. Fouad Hassan is committed to the rights of migrant workers, and in the 2017 report he was oppressed. Mr. Fouad Hassam was dismissed at the end of 2017. He was working for a private enterprise following pressure exerted by the security services. Mr. Maloui Rashid, president of the SNAPAP, who was with us today, was also dismissed from his job as administrator of the University for Ongoing Training in Oran because of his militant involvement, and because the SNAPAP, a trade union, decided to defend migrant workers, to speak out on their behalf. He is convinced that the enlargement of rights and fundamental freedoms can only be beneficial for Algerian society. Fourth point and last point, the hateful campaign waged against migrant workers by the political authorities of the country. To give you an example, the intervention of the former Chief of Staff of the President of the Republic, who is currently the Prime Minister, Mr. Ahmed Aouaya, as well as the former President of the National Consultative Commission for the Protection and Promotion of Human Rights, Mr. Farouk Xentini. This commission has been replaced by the current National Council for Human Rights, and even the intervention of the Minister for Foreign Affairs in July 2017, when he stated that this phenomenon, namely the phenomenon of the significant influx of irregular migrants, is, and I quote, a national security threat. The President of the National Human Rights Council had stated in February 2018 that he wanted to investigate the facts following the recent statement of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Niger, accusing the Algerian authorities of ill-treating the sub-Saharan refugees. End of quote. She had already stated in November 2017 that Algeria had spent €9 million to ensure the return in dignity of 10,000 African women and children to their countries of origin. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you that you respect your time. And maybe we will pass the next presentation by Director of Cooperation and National Prison Administration. And on the end of those presentations, we will give floor to our committee members for questions. I invite representative of Directorate of Cooperation and National Prison